Hello and welcome to another episode of the Gooner Ramble and AFTV podcast, and we're here tonight to preview the upcoming match against Newcastle United. My name's Callum and I'm joined tonight by Akhil.
Hello.
Hi mate, you right?
Yeah, good.
Good man, and from across the pond we're also joined by Rick. How you doing, mate?
Doing fantastic, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, right.
Good.
We're doing a bit early I guess this week because the match is on Monday and we're doing this on Thursday night. So there's still a few days for us to pick up 3 or 4 injuries. But we were kind of going into this match on a bit of good form, having beaten West Ham, beaten Hull. Newcastle seemed to be an absolute free-fall. So, I mean, what are your predictions, Rick? Do you think we'll come out of this with a win, or do you think this could potentially be a bit of a banana skin for us?
Well, you look at the match and you think, well, it should be easy because Newcastle really is in a free-fall. They've lost, 5 in a row?
They haven't scored.
They haven't scored
for games. I don't think
they've been shipping goals. It seems like something we should absolutely win, but you never know how a team's going to react and respond, and try to break that losing skid they're on. So I'm confident. I'm fully confident, but you never know how Newcastle's going to respond.
What about you, Akhil? Do you think we're going to be all right?
Yeah, I think the last week or so will give us a lot of confidence. I mean, it started well in terms of a result with the semi-final, and then obviously we beat West Ham, and then we ended it with a pretty good performance against Hull, apart from the first 20 minutes maybe. So I think we'll definitely go into it with a lot of confidence. I think, as we've said, Newcastle are in a bit of a situation. I mean, their manager, Pardew, stuff is still going on a little bit, and I think Remy's been out for a while. I'm not sure if he's back, but it's so they obviously lost Kabay in January as well. So I think as long as we turn up and we play our game, we should be fine. I think now it helps that we've got a week sort of in between every game, so we've got recovery time, we've got players back. They'll be confident, Ramsey, Ozil and co. So yeah, I think we'll be fine.
Yeah, it certainly does have that feeling that we've turned a corner as such. I think I don't know about you guys, but for me it felt like of our last 5 league games after the cup run, the toughest 2 games were West Ham, just after we'd played Wigan, and then Hull at the weekend, who have been a good team at home this season. So it does feel like we've perhaps come through the toughest part now, and we've got a bit of an easier run in.
Yeah.
But then, wouldn't it be typical if Newcastle came and got something from us this Monday? But no. Well, yeah, this is the thing. We have a bit of history with Newcastle, don't we? Of course, with the 4-4. But the game last season, of course, ended 7-3. That was a fantastic match. Although no Walcott to score a hat-trick for it this time. But it certainly feels that we've got our swagger back a little bit. And I mean, how do you think we're going to set up? Do you reckon it'll be similar to last week with Ozil and Ramsey both starting, Arteta as well? Podolski, I mean, he's scoring for fun at the moment, so you'd imagine he starts. So, I mean, do you think Wenger will mix it up a little bit, or do you reckon, with the 8 days rest, we'll see more of the same? Akhil, you want to?
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Or whoever wants to go. Why don't you go first, then, Rick? Go on, Rick.
Well, I'd like to think he stays the same. Ramsey's return has been huge, I think. That's probably what's helped us turn that corner more than anything. Ozil came back. He played okay. I think there's more to come from him, but you never know what he's going to do with Podolski. And that's concerning to me because if the ball drops to him in the box, he's going to score. I mean, he just got a lethal foot. And I don't know why he doesn't play more just to pick up those loose balls and put them in the back of the net, because we've found out that we don't have many others that do. So you never know how he's going to treat Podolski.
He has played a fair bit recently, would you not think? That he seems to have got quite good games now.
Yeah, I think
that could be because of injuries.
He was in the news complaining, I don't know why I get taken off all the time, so Wenger on purpose left him on for a whole game finally.
Yes, he did, didn't he? And then he played 83 minutes, I think, against Hull. So he. Yeah. What do you think? I've heard some people talk about potentially even moving Podolski into the middle because he's been so lethal. Or do you think we should just stick with playing him on that left side where he scored, 4 goals in 2 games? Do you think that's probably the best way to go, or would you be tempted to mix it up a little bit?
I'd be tempted to mix it up just because Giroud's. We've been riding his back for so long. He's got to be tired, but. I know a lot of people don't think Podolski works in the middle. I think he can. It's just a different player. They're like, well, he doesn't hold the ball up. Well, so what? Do you have to? Can't you just run on to passes and put the ball in the back of the net? Sounds good to me.
But my counter argument would be that you basically have Giroud up front doing the dirty work. So, the defenders he's the one that is always there. The defenders always have to pay attention to him. And then perhaps because they're distracted by him, Podolski has a bit more freedom to come into the box a little bit more. I don't know.
Yeah,
what about you, Axe? Do you think it's what do you think? Do you think it's good to move him into the middle, or do you think we should just keep as we're going?
No, I mean, I remember when he started in the middle against Cardiff on New Year's Day, I think, and despite being on a bit of a hangover from New Year's, of course, but I watched Podolski quite closely, and I said it then that when he wasn't involved in the game much, and then when he tried to get involved, he was back to goal, coming very, very deep, but he just wasn't affecting play at all, and I think. It would be similar if we put him in the middle again. So I think our whole game now is based on Giroud holding it up with midfield runners. I think Wenger and us will be a bit disappointed that we haven't got enough goals from midfield recently, but then because of the injuries, I think that's probably what's caused it. So I think the system just works better with Giroud there. And bearing in mind, on paper, the teams that we're playing, we should beat. I wouldn't really want to change things around. I just don't think it's worth it. I think we're settled. We've got our players back now. So, I mean, it was amazing to see how well Giroud played against Hull, just with Ramsey and Ozil back. I mean, there's a few times where Ozil just pinged the ball to Giroud and made him run. And Giroud got there, which was amazing, because 2 weeks ago he would never have got there. So it's like he's
running through treacle.
Yeah, exactly. So I just think that, I don't think we should change it much. I think Podolski's a great finisher. I think against on paper, the not so good teams, maybe the 10th and below, he's an exceptional player. I think again in the big games, if you're playing on the left, you have to do something coming back. You have to help your left back or your right back. Because if you don't in a big game, you will get done. Everton, Lukaku, Martinez knew that Monreal was suspect and Podolski in front of him will give him no support. What did he do? He put Lukaku out there to literally do Monreal because he knew Podolski wouldn't be helping out. So that's the problem in big games. But I think games like this, I think Podolski's fine on the left. But I do think Wasicki could come in. Perhaps Flamini could get a game as well. We've got options at last where we didn't have options a few weeks ago where we felt that, we knew who was going to start, whereas now at least we've got a little bit of choice. So I think it's a good thing.
No, it's an interesting point, especially when you mention Flamini and Rosicky, because it felt, the last few weeks that we've been struggling just to get a good starting 11 together, and now really with a couple of good performances with Ramsey and Özil back in, it's hard to find a place for Flamini and Rosicky.
Yeah, even Alex Chamberlain didn't start against Hull.
Well, yeah, exactly. And those, especially around the time of the Bayern game where he had an absolute stormer, it seemed, implausible to not play him. Although I think in recent weeks it's probably been justified a little bit because he's been good off the bench and we've been doing all right from the start. Rick, did you want to come back in on Podolski or?
Oh no, not particularly. I wasn't really lobbying for him to play up front. I'm just saying it's an option.
Well, yeah,
especially since he doesn't defend. It takes him out of that left wing spot where he doesn't defend and puts him in a place where he's really not going to hurt a defense.
You have to say that
it's not optimal, obviously.
I think it might have been worth a go earlier on, maybe a month ago when we weren't playing well, when we had a lot of big games and we weren't winning them. Perhaps then it would have been the time, because Olivier Giroud just looked absolutely knackered about a month ago. He still looks a bit fatigued now, but he looks like the week off has just given him a little bit more, and you think he will be all right. But yeah, a month ago playing Podolski out there, I think would have been a real option. But
You get the impression that Wenger made his mind up some time ago about Podolski up front, and I'm kind of inclined to agree. I remember that Cardiff game, Akhil, quite closely because I in last season I kind of was unconvinced by Podolski when he played up front, and always felt that if we were going to move someone up front, it should have been Walcott. And unfortunately he did get that game against Spurs in the Cup this season where he was brilliant up front, and then obviously he did his knee in and hasn't played since. So, but yeah, in the Cardiff game, I remember he really struggled to impose himself. And I've always felt with Podolski that his best position is with a front two playing off the main striker.
Yeah, right.
And we just don't play that formation.
Yeah,
especially because we play a number 10, so you can't really have, unless you're going to play some sort of diamond or some kind of. It's very attacking to have a striker and then someone playing off him and then a number 10 as well. It kind of clogs up the middle of the park a little bit. But I think Podolski, with regards to what formation we play, probably does his best work as part of a kind of attacking midfield three, attacking three forwards on the left side of that. because often we have Gibbs overlapping on the left or Monreal. They're always encouraged to get forward, and Podolski's encouraged to drift in between that space between the left back and the right back, and the centre back. And his goal against West Ham when Cazorla found him with that pass was him just drifting unnoticed into that space. And I don't feel he would get as much joy if he was the main target man, because Giroud is always swamped by defenders. But as you're saying about his performances improving, it's no coincidence that it's Ramsey running off him, or Oxlade-Chamberlain in recent weeks when he has played on the wing. So and I think you guys are right about Podolski not necessarily being good enough in the big games, but you'd think between now and the end of the season, especially in the form he's in, he'll be more than enough on the left.
I do hope he stays this summer, to be honest. I think he is someone who can get us a goal. I mean, that Swansea game, when he came on, he absolutely changed it by getting a goal and an assist. And I wouldn't want to lose him totally. I think he's happy here. I think he does love it here. And I'll be quite upset to see him go, to be honest. Even if I don't think he's the best player in the world, I probably wouldn't play him in big games. But as part of a squad, I would love to keep him.
I'm just really torn over Podolski, because if you'd asked me a few weeks ago, I would have kind of been okay with him leaving, because for me he's not good enough to start, and whether or not we can afford a £100,000 a week rotation player, I'm not really convinced. And I mean, we've got Oxlade-Chamberlain and Cazorla who can play on that left side, Rosicky if need be, Wilshere, and I'd also like to see us sign a winger. We've been linked with Draxler, and someone like Griezmann who plays for Sociedad would be absolutely brilliant, because it's often felt that we need more width on the wings. But when Podolski, when he scores 4 goals in 2 games and just shows how clinical he can be, I mean, it's hard to say we don't want that anymore, isn't it? I mean, he really is a player of quality, and I love the guy as well. So I certainly wouldn't be ever championing him for us to sell him. But if there are players that to go, I'd probably say that perhaps we could afford to let him go because of the wages he's on, and as you say, he's never really been a good hard worker, and we've been exposed on that left side when he plays. But I don't know, what do you think, Rick? Do you think Podolski's someone we want to keep in hold of? Or?
Pretty much agree with you. I think we need something different on the left wing than what Podolski offers. I want somebody who's just gonna skin defenders all day long, and that's not really what Podolski does. But he's a brilliant finisher, so you'd still, like Ak said, you'd hate to get rid of him because you'd like the option of playing him when he's needed, but I don't think he's going to sit around and not be a regular starter. I think he's going to want to move if he's not playing every week.
True, but anyway, we'll move on. So yeah, we spoke a little bit about Newcastle. I mean, as we said, that they've been in awful form, and even when we were losing to Chelsea and Everton and all this, it seemed that on the form table they were always below us. They were always outdoing us, and that took some going during that horrible period we had. But it's ever since Pardew headbutted Myler, and he had 7 games where he wasn't on the touchline. Do you know if he's back on the touchline for this one, or is he still banned?
Sure. I'm not sure.
I mean, it shouldn't make too much of a difference, really, should it? But I mean, he looks at a lot of Newcastle fans. I've kind of opinions I've read. It seems to be that they all want him gone now because they're playing such unimaginative stuff at the moment, and so there seems to be no investment in the club, and. But they have got a few players that I guess could hurt us. I don't know if Remy's going to play, but if he does, then he's obviously someone who. I mean, I've said before that I wouldn't mind us signing Remy next season, because we could probably get him quite cheap, and he's proven in the Premier League. But I mean, is this going to be a straightforward win, or I mean, do they have any guys that you think can hurt us, or do you really think we'll be able to brush them aside? And the fact that they're on this awful run, I mean. In theory, that means we should beat them comfortably. But you would have said the same about Sunderland going to Stamford Bridge last week. They won 2-1. So
it's a little bit different, obviously, because Newcastle are safe. They haven't really got anything to play for. Sunderland are obviously fighting for their lives. So I think mentally, Newcastle players will be on their holidays. Pardew is back, I think, on the touchline. I think it's his first game back. You'll have players like, I don't know if Remy's even fit, but he'll be thinking about his next move now as well. Ben Arthur's not really played much, so he's slightly unsettled. So I think focus-wise, they won't be there. Players like Debuchy will be now thinking about the World Cup. And I don't think it will be. I think we'll. I mean, hopefully we come out fire and get an early goal, and then we just sort of enjoyed the game. I think it's important to start enjoying football again, because I think we've played under such massive amounts of pressure in the last month or two, with sort of the manager situation, players being out, sort of failing in the league miserably. I think now it's probably the next 3 games are all about getting that confidence up again for Hull in the FA Cup, and just enjoying football again, which I think with Ramsey and Ozil we will start to do. So, as long as I said before, as long as we turn up and play our game, that's all we need to be worried about. We don't need to worry too much about Newcastle. People always sort of question Wenger, that does he prepare for the opposition, and often I agree, but I think in this case, play our game right and we'll win.
I hope you're right.
Yeah, whatever did happen to Ben Arfa,
well, it seems peculiar because when you've lost Cabaye, I mean, they had a really good run in the first half of the season where they beat Man United, which I guess isn't the hardest thing to do this season, but it was still a great result. And did they beat Chelsea as well? I mean, they went on I think they did beat Chelsea.
Yeah, they
had some great results really that kind of propelled them into the top half of the table, and it's kept them there since, despite this awful run. But a big part of that was Cabaye, who is, the creative hub of that team. So when you lose that and you're playing Dan Gosling, you might think, well, we've got Ben Arfa available, who is, he's a bit of an enigma, isn't he? But when he's on form, he's absolutely brilliant. I don't know if he's had injury problems, but from the little I have read about him recently, it's some Newcastle fans, I think he has been available and he hasn't been playing. So it's, I don't think he's available for this Monday, or if he will, he isn't completely fit. So I'm guessing he'll start on the bench. But yeah, it is peculiar what's going on at Newcastle at the moment, and it's odd, for a club that's comfortably in top. They were relegation candidates last season, and this year they've been in that top half, but there's still, widespread discontent amongst the fans.
Yeah, they were just flying so high at the beginning of the season, like you said. It was you didn't expect them to really come down to this. It was Cabaye really that big of a factor in their team? Or is
I think definitely. He's their Ramsey.
Maybe?
I think what Ramsey has been to us has been what Cabaye was to them, if not greater, because they really don't have that many creative players. I mean, Ramsey was the hub of everything for us, but we also had Özil and Cazorla who can can make that pass or dig something out of nothing. But with Newcastle, from what I have seen of them, their defending has been abysmal, but they've also looked like they've got nothing going forward.
I think Tiote's been found out as well. He hasn't really been.
Oh, well, he gave away a penalty against Swansea in the last minute with a bad tackle the other day.
I remember a couple of years ago, some Arsenal fans wanted us to sign him.
Well, there's a few players that you can point back and laugh at, but
and Cissé's not scoring goals either. What the heck?
No, well, he's apparently done his knee in, so he's not playing for the rest of the season. He might not even be available for next season. So, they're in a shambles, so we should expect a 3-4-0 win, shall we? So
it does look like Remy's back. I just had a quick check. He was on the bench against Swansea, so you would expect him to start now. But as I said,
that's the only worry, isn't it?
It's a worry, but I think his mind might be on the World Cup even and other things. So hopefully we'll be all right.
He might even be looking to have a bit of an audition to impress the gaffer.
Yeah, very true.
You never know. But anyway, so we've decided then it's a comfortable 4-5-0 victory then.
6.
6 maybe. Okay. Moving on, it's been a bit of a quiet news week because we're not in crisis for once, so there's not an awful lot to talk about. One of the biggest stories, I guess, this week was the return of Abou Diaby, who played in the under-21s against Chelsea this season. Rick, then, what do you think about Diaby? Do you think he can play any part in our run-in, and in more long-term? Do you think I think he's got another year on his contract. I mean, is he still going to bring something to the table this season or for next year, or is it kind of, are we going through the motions again and should just kind of wash our hands with him?
I'm almost tired of saying, he's going to be great, because every time he starts to look like he's going to be like something, he gets hurt again. So it's hard for me to say he's going to be a factor going forward, especially this season. I don't think there's enough games left for him to find his feet and make a difference for us before the season's over. As far as a year left on his contract, well, it'd be great to have him. It'd be great to live up to the potential he has, but I'm done expecting it. He's going to play 2 games. He's going to hurt himself again. We're going to be back where it is. The poor guy can't stay fit. So, if you'd asked me this question years ago, though, I would have thought this guy was going to be a legend.
I have to say, I do this occasionally, and I really shouldn't, but I rewatched the highlights of his performance against Liverpool last season.
Oh yeah.
In the 2-0 win at Anfield, and I have to say, it was genuinely one of the most accomplished performances I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Given by an Arsenal player. I mean, he just dominated that game.
Absolutely.
But as you say, it's been. I mean, that really was the last great game he had, and that was pretty much 2 seasons ago. And I know he's been injured, but I mean, I don't know how many injuries he's had now, but especially this season, it seems that it's tough to see him coming back now. That with Ramsey back and he's playing alongside Arteta, and then you've got Kim Shalstrom and Flamini who aren't even starting at the moment. So I mean, really, he's probably 5th, 6th choice, isn't he, at the moment with the players that are available?
Yeah, even when he's fit, where's he fit in, right?
Exactly. So it seems unlikely. Akhil, what's your take on Diaby? Are we ever going to see him in an Arsenal shirt again? Is he going to get a game this season, do you think? Or
I think
score the win in the FA Cup final, maybe?
I never know. I think we'll see him in an Arsenal shirt again, whether it be this season or not. Maybe. But I disagree with you a little bit there about him being 6th choice. I think a fit Abou Diaby and him, Aaron Ramsey are the two sort of players that are playing in behind Mesut Ozil for me. I think Abou Diaby will play. I mean, this summer I've got hopes for, obviously we want a striker, but I've got hopes for sort of a midfielder. I don't really like the term defensive midfielder or holding midfielder, but I want like a powerful midfielder, someone who's got a bit of stature, a bit of physical presence, who can put himself about a bit, but is technically good as well to fit into our system. And funny enough, that describes Abou Diaby. So, but is he ever going to get a season, is he ever going to stay fit a season? Probably not. And I think it's such a shame, but I mean, I thought we might not even ever see him again after the last injury. So the fact that he's fought back, he is quite strong mentally. I mean, to come back from all these injuries, I mean, he's done well. He deserves credit for all that. But, sadly, I just, you struggle with, I can so imagine him maybe coming on for a few games, looking good, getting a goal, France call him up, having a good World Cup, and then getting injured in pre-season or something like that. It would just be his luck and our luck as well. So, I don't know. I think he's got a year left on his contract, so I think he might play a few games here and there next season when fit.
I've got to say though, I'm not ever exaggerating, but I genuinely have forgotten quite how good he is. I can't really picture in my head what kind of. I mean,
because he was only good for fleeting moments and then he was injured again. That's why it's hard to remember.
It's different. I mean, it has been. I mean, it was the last game he played was the game. Swansea, when we beat Swansea last season, which was the game directly after when Nacho scored the winner, and it was after the Bayern match. So, I mean, it's been 13 months, I think, since he last played for Arsenal. And I'm not just saying that I can't remember how good he was. I just genuinely can't differentiate between the time that he was injured. I mean, it was such a long time ago. And I can't remember what his performances were like in the weeks leading up to that. And like I said, with the Liverpool game last season, he was world class. But one swallow doesn't make a summer, does it? And
I think of the Liverpool game a couple of years ago in the Champions League where he played, and I think that was the day when Kola Torre gave away that penalty right at the end, and the Theo Walcott run day. But that first 20 minutes, I still think was the two halves of football that I remember when I think we were unplayable was that first half against Liverpool, or at least first half an hour, where Abou Diaby was class, and in 2004 against Chelsea when Jose Antonio Reyes scored the Champions League that first half. But I mean, Abou Diaby scored the goal at Anfield, the first goal, and we were just fantastic. And Diaby was all a part of that. He's such a classy player. When fit, I mean, believe me, he is. He could have been as good as he wanted to be, but
when fit, I mean, that really is
exactly,
point,
which is why he probably won't ever be where he wants to be.
And if he does stay fit, how spoiled for choices are we?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's arguable that even if he is fit, if he'll ever be the player that he looked like he could be. I mean,
right.
For me, my opinion is that he's got a year left on his contract. Let's just keep him in the squad next. I mean, as far as I understand, we've got no problems with regards to the registration places. We're not we're full to the brim. And obviously guys like Kuhlstrom will move on next season. So there's a place for him, I think, in the squad. I certainly wouldn't offer him a new deal or pin any hopes on him being available. But I think it would be worth just keeping him around for another season, because worst case scenario is that he gets injured again or he doesn't perform, and oh well, your contract's up. Because realistically, who's going to pay any money for him?
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say. Who wants him right now? Who would we sell him to?
He is just the greatest risk. And I mean, if he had genuinely been an amazing player before, rather than showing the odd glimpses, then perhaps you would have got people that were willing to take the risk. But as far as I see it, no one's going to want to take his wages and on the risk and pay the money, given how risky it would be. So we're likely going to have him for another year, like we had Bentner for this year. We didn't really want him, but I mean, they're not comparable really in terms of the kind of player they are, but or kind of person they are. I mean,
or their attitude.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, yes. But yeah. I mean, we'd all love to see him come and put in some good performances, wouldn't we? But I mean, I was saying to you before the pod, we saw the picture of him because he played against the under-21s for Arsenal against Chelsea, and there was a picture that Arsenal.com put on of his knee, or of him, and you could see on his knee this massive scar down the right hand side that must have been about 15 inches long. It was horrible, and I don't know. I think everyone. There's some people that seem to have a genuine kind of malaise towards him and really seem to hold him accountable for how unlucky he's been. Always sitting, taking those wages on when he's just not playing. But I think we can all agree that he would much rather be playing every week, wouldn't he? And earning that money. But so who knows? We never know what's going to happen. But I think Wenger probably will keep him for another year. Do you think that, or?
Oh, absolutely.
Do you think Wenger might?
Yeah, there's no choice. Yeah. No one's taken.
So anyway, hopefully we'll see him at some point this season, and if not, hopefully he'll get a good pre-season under his belt. And I mean, he was speaking briefly the other day about making the World Cup squad, which I think is a bit far-fetched, but you never know.
What does scare me about situations like this is he does have a good pre-season, he plays in the friendlies, plays well, and suddenly we think, actually, maybe we don't need this strong midfielder. I was about to say holding midfielder after I've just said I don't like that. But, we think that, we've got the player, and then obviously September the 2nd he gets injured. It's just the way of the world sort of thing.
Well, that's an interesting point, because I say I want to keep him, but I want to keep him as a bonus. If he's fit and is able to play, that's a huge bonus. It's not dependent on him in any way.
Yeah, you can't depend.
And I think, I mean, and it's clear that this season we've suffered from, Wenger depending on Giroud being fit and on form all season, and he just hasn't been. Or depending on certain players not getting injured, and unfortunately that's happened, and it would be incredibly foolish to bank on Diaby not being injured for a season, but I'd like to think that even Wenger wouldn't do that. So anyway, we'll keep our fingers crossed and hope that we see more of him in the Arsenal shirt. Moving on then, Aaron Ramsey this week was nominated for the PFA Young Player of the Season award. Much deserved, we can all agree. But I mean, for me, it was very much a case of what could have been. I mean, leading up to December, I felt that he was nailed on for Player of the Season if he kept it up, and obviously he didn't play from Boxing Day until the Everton match earlier this month. Akhil, I mean, Ramsey, I mean, first of all, I'm guessing you're going to say that he deserved his nomination here, but I mean, what could it have been? What could this season have been for Aaron if he'd stayed fit and kept that form up? I mean, are you like me? Do you think this has always been the season that what could have been for him?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he led from the front. I mean, he was, he actually ended last season quite well as well, and I think people forget.
He did. A lot of people don't realise that as well.
It's because he wasn't people's favourite person then. He sort of played, and then he sort of slowly but surely, he did add goals last year, but he was playing well, and I think he went under the radar a bit.
He reminds me, sorry, just very quick, he reminds you a lot of what Jordan Henderson is doing now. Which is that Henderson isn't scoring many goals, but he's a workhorse and he's a really important player for Liverpool in the same way that Ramsey was for us in the last few months of last season. And it was only really when he started scoring for fun this year that other teams or other fans of other teams took notice, and some of the people that had hated Ramsey or really wanted him gone and were reluctant to admit he was getting better, it was only when he started scoring that they had to admit that actually he's really turned a corner.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think he's been brilliant for the whole of 2013 in my eyes, but obviously especially the second half.
Yeah, I mean, he was asked himself after the whole game, I think the BBC asked him that, is it something you think about that if only you were fit. I mean, often a lot of players might think, no, I don't think about that because it happened. But Aaron Ramsey actually said, yes, he does think about what if he was fit the whole season because, the boy was scoring for fun. He was playing well. He was a typical box-to-box player, something which we haven't really had recently. I mean, Wilshire's obviously similar-ish role, but I think Rambo's just well ahead of him now. I think he's just, he would have, having him just around, it would have added so much. I mean, especially in that dodgy run. I mean, the injury is one thing. I think it's the setback that really hurt us. I mean, if he had come back by the end of sort of January, start of February, and then was sort of fit for, the Bayern Munich game and then the Chelsea, Liverpool games, then suddenly we might have had a different result. So I definitely think he sort of deserves his place in the PFA as a nomination, obviously, but he hasn't played the whole season, so realistically he's never going to be close to winning it. But hopefully next year he'll get an FA Cup this year, and then hopefully he'll come back next year strong. I think he's the fittest lad we have. I think once Arsene Wenger was asked about if someone could run a marathon, what player would you pick to run it? And without any question, hesitation, he said Aaron Ramsey. So I'm sure he'll come back again next year, and hopefully we'll see more of him, and hopefully he's because of our squad, we don't have to rely on him. We can rest him when it's needed and just, rotate a little bit in those busy Christmas periods. And hopefully he has a big season again.
Well, I mean, his influence really can't be understated, can it? I mean, it's not only his individual brilliance, the way he can score goals and pick a pass and stuff like that, but, Özil's form dropped off, I think, coincidentally, with a time when Ramsey was injured because they'd formed a nice partnership, and Giroud had no runners going beyond him, which Ramsey was doing in the first half of the season. So he really is a main man, isn't he? And Rick, I mean, do you think you could even make a case for him being in the team of the season, even though he missed 3 months, or is that pushing it a bit?
Depends on how he finishes, I guess. Depends on how big the attention is on it when people start voting for these things. But I think I said on a pod several months ago that I think Arteta was also missing Ramsey as well, just because he does cover so much ground. So not only is he running beyond Giroud and getting in the box, he's getting back. He's box to box. He's getting back. And when Ramsey went down, I think Arteta was exposed for his lack of pace. He had nobody back there helping him. So I really think he has been an absolute linchpin to our season.
No, you're spot on. I think it must be great fun playing next to him because 1 minute I don't know if in the whole game for Podolski's goal, the first goal, you could see Ramsey running from back when we countered, and Podolski was comfortably ahead of him, and it wasn't because Podolski wasn't running fast. It was just Ramsey was just an absolute just sped into the box ahead of him and chested it down and he scored. So I think it's nice. I guess nice to see him nominated, but let's hope the next season he's the front runner for the main award. So hopefully we'll have a few more games out of him, and he can go win us the cup. And if you fancy anyone to do it, it probably would be him, wouldn't it? To score a goal or make a great pass or to do something that would get us the cup. So fingers crossed that he ends the season well. And do you think he'll win that award, or do you think Hazard's had a great season? I think he probably would be the favourite.
Yeah, I don't know that
for
he's
the young player.
Just because of the timeout. I think if he was fit, I think he might be rather a shoe-in. But I think the timeout, people are talking about Hazard, people are talking about Sterling. I think all the people that are lapping up Liverpool right now might vote for Sterling. I don't know.
Yeah, Sterling. He has been superb recent weeks. But I was watching Monday Night Football the other night, and they were doing the team of the season. And Gary Neville said he put Lallana in there, and Jamie Carragher argued for Sterling. And I really felt that Lallana deserved to be in there, not because I hate Liverpool or anything, but because I just felt that Lallana over the course of the season had been brilliant, and Sterling has had a great end, but I don't think he's been this good over the whole course of it. But
I think
anyway,
Lallana's more of a complete player too.
Yeah. And I think interestingly as well is that Ramsey's only played something like 5 games less than Sturridge, which you perhaps wouldn't think. And maybe my stats are wrong, but I'm pretty sure I read that the other day. But anyway,
but
let's hope he wins it.
Voting gets influenced by Liverpool's position in the table. Things
and certainly in what has happened in recent weeks as well.
Yeah.
But anyway, as I said, been a bit of a quiet week news-wise. So inevitably, there's been a lot of transfer talk. as there always is in quiet weeks. There was some talk in the Mirror, I think, about us having a £70 million transfer kitty. I don't know how many of these figures we've had over the last few years, but 70 million is the most recent one.
Is that the same article that said we were tracking cleverly?
Oh, it could well be.
Oh,
it could well be. But you'd hope not. There's also been Lauren Koscielny. Apparently, he's going to go to Chelsea. And have you heard the one today about Özil going to Barcelona?
No.
For 30 million euros. Apparently, we're going to sell him for 20 million euros less because he's been a flop, quote unquote, this season.
Oh God.
Yes, but obviously, this week Barcelona's transfer ban was suspended temporarily, so it looks like they will be able to buy players in the summer, meaning that they might be open to selling some players, including one, Cesc Fabregas, maybe, who was booed off the other day. I don't know if you saw that. He's been getting a bit of a hard time recently from the Barcelona fans, and the rumours of him coming back to Arsenal have cropped up a little bit. I mean, do we think there's any truth in this? Do you think there's any chance he could come back? Do you think Wenger would go for it? Akhil, what do you make of? I know they're a bit flimsy, but the Fabregas to Arsenal rumours, do you reckon it could happen?
Well, there was a reason why there was some sort of a clause about a buyback clause put in, and that must be if Cesc Fabregas ever becomes available again, Arsenal want sort of first refusal, first offer. So, if he is available and has decided he wants to leave, then that means, potentially you could see it. I mean, I think Arsene Wenger last season said that he can see Cesc Fabregas returning to Arsenal one day. He admitted it probably wouldn't be in the next 2 or 3 years, but maybe one day. And obviously nobody could have guessed how the season for Barcelona would have gone. It looks like they're going to struggle to win anything now. Atletico Madrid and Real Madrid are in the title race with them, and getting booed as well didn't help. So it's an interesting one. I mean, I think it would hurt all Arsenal fans if he went to Man United, if we saw him and Van Persie line up against each other. But then would he go to a club that's not in Europe, not in the Champions League? I don't know. So I would like to think if Cesc Fabregas is going to leave, I would happily take him back to Arsenal. The more players we have, the more world-class players we have, the better. In terms of system, I don't know where he would fit in. It may even mean putting Özil a bit wider, or I don't know, putting Fabregas sort of not slightly more withdrawn a little bit, not as the Cesc Fabregas position, but the position he played in his early days, perhaps. But I don't know. But if he was available, I would like Arsenal to be involved, because I think it would hurt us if he went to Man United.
There has been a kind of a general feeling that the feeling of the desire to have him back at Arsenal isn't quite as great as the desire to have him not go to Man United. I mean, that seems to be what I've seen, and I think that because on a practical level, I don't think we need another creative midfielder. Do we? I mean, even though he is an incredible player, we certainly need the midfielder you were describing earlier. Combative, box to box. Strong, imposing centre midfielder, a Lars Bender or something like that, rather than a Cesc Fabregas. But I mean, it's just too tempting, isn't it?
It does mean the pressure would be off Özil a little bit. If one of them did get a long-term injury, you've got literally proper cover.
I mean, that's the thing, though. We talk about how we'd fit them into the starting 11, but knowing our luck with injuries, we might even have the opportunity very often. So it would be great having them.
Especially when the FA Cup starts and you're in the Champions League, the games do come thick and fast. So, I'm always keen to take good players, even if we have players in that position already. I think it's you just sort of battle for a starting lineup. That's where your manager should be able to sort of, work on his tactics, find a way to play them all together. I mean, something David Moyes couldn't do with Wayne Rooney, Van Persie and Mata. That is the job of a manager. You have to try and fit them all in, or you sell.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? I guess it's a bit more different with Moyes, who obviously isn't the manager anymore, but when he was there, I always felt that he couldn't drop Van Persie or he couldn't drop Rooney. And as a result, Mata, who he'd spent £40 million on, was playing left wing, right wing, basically anywhere but his preferred position in the number 10 role. And when he was given the opportunity there, he excelled. Obviously, I don't think Wenger, presuming he stays on next season, wouldn't have any kind of dissent from the players or feel pressured into playing any of them. But
that's probably why Fabregas getting booed off at Barca. He doesn't know his position. They don't have a spot for him.
Well, it has been. Because it has.
He could apparently we could use him as cover for Giroud because Barca plays him up top sometimes.
Oh, well, that's the thing.
It's crazy.
Barca, his best position is in the centre midfield, and when you've got Xavi and Iniesta in front of you.
Yeah.
I always got the impression that once Xavi stepped aside, it would be Fabregas who took on the mantle of that main creative midfielder. But it seems that Xavi isn't going anywhere, even though he has dipped a bit this season, and he's had to play on the front, on the left of an attacking three, or as you said, in the false nine. I think both for Spain and for Barcelona where Messi's been injured. Maybe it's something that we'd have to sit and talk about if it were to happen. It seems quite unlikely, even with the transfer ban being lifted. But
yeah, I don't see it happening.
Cesc is, what is he, 26, 27?
Yeah.
Get him for 25 million. He is still world class in my eyes. It's hard to say. No.
It must have hurt him. He pushed for a move back home for so long, his boyhood club. It must have hurt him to see his own fans cheer him. And that's how much it's hurt him. I think it depends how he does with the rest of the season. I think it's if his form continues to be a bit dodgy and the fans again get on his back, then he may think, actually, maybe I do want to leave, and actually, where's the one place where he probably will feel loved? It's probably Arsenal. So it's I think that the rest of the season's key for him and his future, to be honest.
We've seen a lot of key players leave in recent years, and I know some people do hold some bad feeling towards Cesc, but his departure was handled, I think, better than most. I personally don't hold much bad feeling towards him because, we hadn't won anything for a long time. Barcelona were his hometown club where he grew up playing with Messi and Piqué and all these guys, and when he joined them, they were the best team in the world. It's hard to say no to that, isn't it? So
yeah, but
I don't. And he played for an extra season when he wanted to go the year before, and I've kind of got. I was gutted to see him leave, but I wasn't angry in the same way that I was angry when Van Persie came out with that statement and then joined our greatest rivals.
But let's not forget he went there because they were at the time the best club in the world. Everybody says, well, it's his hometown club. Well, if his hometown club was Mallorca, would he have been, banging on for a transfer?
Well, true, but it must for him to see all his mates that he grew up playing with from when he was 7, 8, playing for the best team in the world. He must have fancied a bit of that. But I was watching some highlights of the Premier League. We have a show over here in the UK, I don't think you get it, called Premier League Years, which is like a 2-hour compilation of each Premier League season, and it was the 2009-10 season. And some of his performances in that season were absolutely incredible. I'm sure you both remember the game against Tottenham that year when Van Persie scored, and just as they finished showing the replay, Fabregas already won the ball, ran up to the other end and hit it past the keeper.
Yeah.
He really was inspired that season, so who knows? We'll have to wait and see, I guess, see how things turn out. But I, for one, wouldn't say no to signing him. I'm guessing you're both the same.
Yeah, there was a lot of sort of. You say that he went and it was all sort of well, but I think behind the scenes there was a few issues. If you remember his dodgy hamstrings and not going on tour, and there was sort of rumours that he pretty much went on strike, to be honest, and all.
Well, some people think that he threw that game against Barca, that he was purposely.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, to be honest, but I think they'll probably, he did certainly stay on the extra year, I think, when he wanted to go. But I do think we didn't get enough money for him. I thought, was it 35? Rumours to be 35. I thought, I thought Cesc Fabregas at that time was worth a lot more. I thought he was one of the best players on the planet in his position then. So I think maybe that was where the problem was. I think Barcelona probably knew that if Fabregas pushes it, we can probably get him a little bit cheaper, and Arsenal obviously wanted to get the most money they could for him, and then that's maybe when the dodgy hamstrings came into play. And I think it did get messy. I know you say other players and stuff like that. With Van Persie, you're right, the statement was completely disrespectful. But if you think of someone like Samir Nasri, I dislike him a lot, and that's probably because I loved him so much when he was here. But he didn't release a statement. He didn't say anything. He let the clubs get on with it. He even played against Liverpool, sort of knowing that, he could get an injury and his whole move could be off, sort of thing. So, I'm not saying I like Samir Nasri or anything. I think he's an absolute, but, there are different ways of handling it. I think all of the players, all three of them probably did things that were wrong and maybe things that they don't think were wrong.
That's fair enough. I'm not trying to make him out to be some sort of saint, but I mean, all I'm really saying is that if he were to potentially join, I would have very little kind of resistance to that. Whereas if Van Persie were to come back, I would have a big bit of a moral dilemma. But with Cesc, I think I could perhaps forgive.
Yeah, I think you need to do what's best for the club. A Van Persie at 31 probably isn't going to give you many more years, but a Fabregas at 27 or whatever he is, he's still got a lot left in his tank. So you got to do what's best for the club, and I think fans, I mean, we're all a little bit fickle in terms of, we don't like this person, but then if they start scoring a few goals and playing well, we suddenly will love them again. So that's just the way football is. It's such a passionate sport that,
look at the love in this season with Suarez. After last year, he was the villain.
Yeah. Well, exactly. I mean, Liverpool fans
score a few goals.
Yeah. I mean, we've had that as well. We've had that with Adebayor when he was here and he flirted with Real Madrid and all that, and then he came back, started scoring a few goals, and then suddenly we sort of forgot again. And that's, I think, when he had his really good season. So it's that's just the way it is. Aaron Ramsey is another example. I mean, those people who sort of booing him at times when his name was read out. I mean, I bet they're not booing him now. You know what I mean? So
very true.
Just how it is.
Okay. Well, let's wait and see what happens with Fabregas. We could perhaps discuss it at further length if it does look like it's on the cards, but we'll focus on the football for now. One last little thing before I get your predictions. Obviously this is not a strictly Arsenal matter, but earlier in the week, David Moyes was sacked as manager of Manchester United. I didn't personally see it coming. I felt that he would be given to the end of the season. It was definitely handled in a very bad way, and you'd like to think that. I mean, I don't think Wenger will ever be sacked, but you hope when he does go, it's with a bit of with some class and some dignity, and the whole thing is managed very well. But I guess given the last 10 months that Man United have gone through, I mean, what can we learn from what has happened to Moyes and Man United about what can we learn from that experience with regards to when Wenger eventually steps aside or leaves the club, whether it be this summer or if it be in a year or two? I mean, what went wrong and what do we need to do to make sure that the transition is as smooth as possible? Because there's been a lot of talk about United players being institutionalised, not being used to playing under anyone else, and every player at Arsenal right now will only ever know how to play under Arsene Wenger and no one else. So, I mean, how do we have to approach it?
Well, I think
Rick Gomrick, yeah.
Yeah, I think the problem has been, I think, primarily whether he's done it or not, but Giggsy is probably the problem there. Not only is he still playing, he's still around, he's only ever known one manager, but he's also being tapped for a future management position. So when you got guys like that in the squad, probably Ferdinand, maybe others, where they've known Ferguson for so long, they know what works. Somebody comes in, does something a little bit different, they're not going to buy into that. They're just not going to buy into it. So I think
some of the stories this week have been scandalous about what some of the United players were doing, and the amount of disrespect they were showing him. I mean, did you see that coming from any of our guys? Or
to some extent, yes, but I don't think it ended up where it is now.
I think if you get a manager that commands respect, then if you got Louis van Gaal, I don't think anyone would be piping up to him, would they?
Probably not, but then again, we don't have any players right now at the end of their careers that are looking to be manager of Arsenal right now. So I don't know that anybody would be provocative in that manner, trying to get the guy out or not.
Maybe Bentner. Maybe he's got his eyes on the top job.
Oh, Bentner.
He's
anybody
been asleep
follows
as
him, they deserve it.
but I think you make a good point.
He should have came in, got rid of the old guard because he's not really playing much anymore. Ferdinand can't stay healthy. Should have just got rid of him, to be honest with you. Just get rid of that potential resistance to what you're trying to do. We might run into the same problem because so many people in Arsenal have only known Wenger. So if he walks away, are they going to buy into somebody different? I don't know.
Well, I've heard that opinion a lot. But at the time, especially when he got rid of all the coaching staff, a lot of people said, this setup has won us the league this season. We've had, immense success. You shouldn't change it. So you do wonder if he kind of felt that he just couldn't get rid of these players because too many people would say, "What are you doing? We've won everything. Who are you to come and break everything up?" And you look at, if you remember, Villas-Boas' short time at Chelsea. If I remember correctly, he really tried to kind of push Terry and Lampard out.
Oh yeah.
And that really was his downfall because he tried to change too much too quickly. And when things didn't go their way, the big players were against him. And I think even though Moyes has shown support to United players this season, a lot of them have dissented. Guys like Ferdinand and Giggs and guys like Vidic, who's the club captain, jumping ship as soon as he could.
Yeah.
He's off to Inter in the summer. But anyway, Axe, what do you think? Do you think what else is there to learn from this other than
I think at Man United the players have really let him down. I think they're not bad footballers, but I don't know. They just haven't seemed. I wouldn't say lack of effort, because I think footballers always try and win when they're on a football pitch, but it just seems that they haven't been there. They haven't been fully focused, and it's all a bit strange, to be honest, because I think a lot of the players would have probably still talked to Sir Alex Ferguson a fair bit. And, I thought with Fergie picking sort of David Moyes, he would have made sure that those, even in his sort of non-exec, whatever it is, role, I thought he would have at least made sure that those players backed David Moyes and played for David Moyes. But it just didn't seem like it happened. And it was all, the senior players. A lot of them sort of complained, a few months into the new training regime and the announcing team lineups really late and all that sort of stuff. But I just think as professional players, senior players, they could have probably got behind them a bit more. But then, I don't know, maybe tactically he just wasn't there, and maybe his training methods weren't good. So, end of the day, his club of 7th out of everything. So, you probably do deserve to be sacked. It does sort of open your eyes a little bit, because you think that, we all laugh about 4th place a little bit, and 4th place not a trophy and stuff, which it isn't. But, that is sort of the minimum. I think if we had ever sort of finished outside of 4th, there would have been some serious changes. So I think, the fact that we haven't has shown that we've been quite consistent in that way, and it can easily happen. One bad season like Man United have had, and suddenly you're out of it, and then you could be like Liverpool, have 5 years out of it. I know they're back in it now, but it's a weird one. But I don't think we should be scared of it as well. At the same time, I think if Wenger does decide that this is his time to leave after hopefully an FA Cup, then we shouldn't be scared about a change, because change can be good as well. We look at David Moyes at Everton, when he was there for 8-9 years, he left, and now Martinez has probably taken them on probably a higher level. He's taken them a little bit further, and I think he'll continue to do that. So it can work out as well. Depending on if you get the right man. I think it's all about getting the right man. And then also having the players to play for you. This is Arsene Wenger's team. A lot of them have signed contracts over the last year or two. I can't imagine that the players just blindly signed a contract without knowing what the future of the manager's like. So they are his players. So it will be interesting to see what happens. I think a lot of them might have stayed sort of because of Arsene Wenger. They feel they maybe owe him a little bit. But if he then leaves, who do they owe anything to? Probably no one. And then I think some of them might consider their future. But
I wonder how much you mentioned Martinez at Everton and how he's lifted that club a little bit. I wonder how much that has harmed his aura as well. It walks into the club and everything thinks, oh, he's a good manager, and then Martinez takes Everton to heights that he never had. So I wonder if
it certainly hasn't helped.
No, it hasn't helped. I think if Martinez had walked in there and tanked, would they have stuck with Moyes? I don't know.
No, you're right.
Would his reputation getting tarnished?
It certainly would have enhanced the job he did at Everton. Whereas, in the aftermath of his sacking, a lot of people are having to say, don't forget that he did actually do a great job with Everton, because they were a lower mid-table team when he took them over. And the last few years of his stewardship there, they were always competing for European football. So, he's linked with Spurs. I don't know exactly how he do there. I think Newcastle really is the perfect job for him. I think you do a hell of a lot better than Pardew is, and be a good opportunity for him. But you know, with regards to lessons we're learning, I really hope that there is a plan in place. I mean, even for this summer, if Wenger were to leave, I hope that, you know, whatever happened, you know, imagine if after the FA Cup final, win or lose, Wenger says, I'm leaving. And then the board are like, oh shit, we didn't think that, and we've got no one, on, you know, lined up, and
yeah,
you know, you'd like to think there is at least a contingency plan in there, you know, a file hidden away that can be quickly brought out and used if Wenger does step aside. But you know, I mean, for me, the dream has always been Klopp. When Wenger goes, and from the sounds of it, Klopp ain't going anywhere for a while. So,
yeah,
you know, maybe in 2-3 years he'll be ready to come and would be willing to join us when Wenger steps aside if he does stay that long. So,
and then
I just think
then you got all the sentimental feelings. You know, Captain Tony, we want him back at the club. Right?
Oh God, no. I think his short spells of management already have quickly put those rumours to bed. And,
no, I don't think he should be manager. I just know that sentimentally, we all love him.
I wouldn't mind Bergkamp back if he came as assistant to De Boer, which is what he's doing now at Ajax. I mean,
that'd be brilliant.
Perhaps be my number one choice, but you know, I could live with that. I think.
I would love Martinez. Sorry to interrupt. I would love Martinez, but not the Martinez now. I would like him to get another year or two at Everton and then come. But that probably does mean Wenger staying on for 2 more years or so. I
mean, because a lot of people said Laudrup last year.
Yeah.
And because he had a great year, and then this year he got sacked.
Yeah.
And he was replaced by Gary
I
Monk.
think, thankfully, last year I said, well, let's wait and see what he does this second season. And he got sacked, so...
I mean, wherever Everton finish this season, if they finish top 4 or if they finish 5th, I don't think they'll be this good again next year. Because United and Spurs will strengthen. Probably, I think we all have bigger resources than them, and you know. But you know, you just hope on our side that there is plans in place and that we get the right man. Because I think if United had gone and got Mourinho, for example, last summer, they could well have ended up at least challenging for the title this season rather than. I don't think anyone would have done as bad a job as Moyes done this year, with all due respect. I think he's just taken them to I mean, it's been hilarious this season, but I do feel for him on a personal level. And, you know, I think even though Wenger's been here for such a long time, if we nail the right man and get him in, I think we could bend, you know, I mean, Everton had Moyes for how long? 8-9 years? New manager, and that they're looking as good as they've ever looked for the last decade. So, you know, perhaps we could. I mean, I hate to say it, but we've not been as successful as United have been, have we? So there's not like these players that are used to winning everything that are then being and the manager's coming in who's won nothing. You know, we'll hopefully get a manager who has won something, and I mean, our players hopefully will have an FA Cup trophy after this year, but. But anyway, that's again another discussion for another day. But
hey, maybe Simeone will win the La Liga and he'll be on the short list as well.
I wouldn't mind him. I wouldn't mind him either. There's a few actually that are looking good, and Ancelotti, you never know. Maybe Guardiola get bored of winning everything with Bayern, but you never know. But anyway, let's wrap this up. Let's get some predictions for Monday night. Who do you think will score the first goal, or all the goals if you want to guess that, and what will the score be? Akhil.
I'm gonna go for a Mesut Ozil goal somewhere, and I think we'll probably concede. It's one of the things we do quite well. We like to concede a goal here and there. So I would go. I think I'll go 3-1.
3-1. So one interesting little thing actually was if before Cech's injury, I read somewhere that if Chelsea were to concede 3 goals in all their, or a goal in each of their last 3 games, and we were to keep 3 clean sheets, then Szczesny would win the Golden Glove. And now I think as Cech's injured, if we were to keep 3 clean sheets, he would win it. So I don't know if that's a motivation for him, but hopefully we'll keep a clean sheet. But anyway, Rick, what's your prediction?
Similarly, 3-1. I think we always make that little lapse in, well, not always, but little lapse in concentration, allow a goal in. But I think we'll score more than they will. 3-1. Let's say Podolski. Go with the hot hand.
Nice. Well, I was going to say 3-1 as well, but to go against the grain a little bit, I'll go a bit more ambitious and say 5-1 actually.
Oh, my. Oh, yes.
I think and the first scorer, I'm torn between Podolski and Ramsey. I'll go Ramsey. 5-1. Ramsey first goal scorer. Podolski probably get another one in there as well. So, right. So we're all predicting a good win. So let's hope that when we do the next pod, whoever's hosting it, whoever's on it, we'll all be celebrating a comprehensive victory, maybe even a clean sheet to boot. So, yeah, thanks for coming on, guys. We've covered quite a few topics, despite it being quite a slow week. So, well done for that. A pat on the back. So yeah, good night, Rick.
Good night.
Good night, Akhil.
Yep, good night. Up the arse.
And that's good night from me. Thanks for listening. Cheers.